something good in
When I started meditating, like years ago, I would suddenly have this rush of energy in my body, like electricity, buzzing, whatever you want to call it. Just this rush all through my body, and it just, I literally, and it would be a joyful experience. I'd be blissful, and at that moment, there were times when I literally thought, like, any second now, I'm going to float up. I'm going to lift off. It was just like that. But I never, unfortunately, actually got to the stage of lifting off. But it was like on the cusp of doing that, I think.
I was contacted the other day. Someone actually relayed or related an experience they had as a child. They said they were amongst a group of children, and they said that they somehow found themselves spontaneously levitating. And the teacher, who was addressing the group of children, shouted at them and said, stop it, get down, get down. And I know, and the person did actually find themselves then coming back down to earth, but they said they have no idea how that happened. But it did get them into a bit of trouble that day.
I've read about 100 cases of human levitation in the West, in European history, going back 1,000 years, like Christian monks. People do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure they can. Interestingly, I just wanted to mention as well, before I forget, this book, Larry Kettlecamp's Investigating UFOs, when I had this when I was about 7 years old. Now, there's a case in here of, and it's only a small book, it's not got that many pages, the Canadian nurses, and it details an event that was very similar to that related by Vanessa the other day. You remember when she said she thought as a child it was a helicopter with 2 occupants in front of her?
Yeah, that video is released now on our channel.
Yeah, it has. And this actually took place at, you'll probably know it, it's not too far from where you guys are. It's Cowichan District Hospital in British Columbia.
Yeah,
Cowichan.
Cowichan, yeah, it's in the interior here.
Yeah, so that's not too far from you. And it comes full circle, because now, after reading this, I'm now talking to you guys in British Columbia as well. So
wow, you should show us the book. Show us the bottom of the book there. Show it to the audience for the video and the subtitle.
Okay.
We can't see the bottom of the book, because it says the dramatic story of the unidentified flying object. Want to show the back of the book as well?
Yes, of course.
It's probably out. Oh, look at that. Yeah, so they can stop the screen if they want to. Yeah, so it's probably out of print, I guess.
It was easy reading for a child. It was just the right one, but it was ahead of its time. It featured Betty and Barney Hill and their experiences. It featured photographs like these, and it was well written. I used to copy these stories out of here, just write them endlessly in my childhood book, well, in my school books, and they were all about. First of all, there'd be a UFO story, and then sometimes there would be a story about owls as well, ironically enough. And we all know that owls feature in the UFO phenomena as well.
Can I say something about that you were mentioning, like Ian before, like the job interviews, and sometimes it's some sort of a medical checkup and that sort of a thing, that's a strange setup. When you were talking about this, I suddenly remembered one incident that happened to me when I was probably like a young teenager, like maybe 13, 14 or something. I remember that I don't know if it was just kind of strange, but it probably isn't anything ET related or anything like that. But I remember at that time, for one day, I became like very dizzy. I could not stand up at all. Like it was like I had to lie down, and so I was taken to the local hospital, which is right across the street from us, the Winnipeg General Hospital at that time. And I remember going into the nurses, no doctors came, and they basically, the 2 nurses were talking amongst themselves. They came in, they gave me a needle in my buttocks, and then they left. I mean, it was just like, it was a really weird, like, and after that, I wasn't dizzy anymore, but it's like, nobody examined me. How do they know what to give me for a needle if I'm dizzy? Like, what, what is the diagnosis here? Was there something going on in the city at that time? It was like, was it an epidemic or of some kind, or something in dizziness? But it was just like a really weird experience too. But it's just such a little thing that I tend to forget that particular one.
Yeah. I have experiences. Well, I have UK abductees discussing their experiences where, when they were children, they were visited on a regular basis by doctors who would call every day during the summer holidays and carry out medical procedures, all with the approval and agreement of the parents, for ridiculous things that shouldn't be. For example, one guy was telling me that his mother told him, well, of course the doctors came. They had to come and keep trimming away the roots that kept growing out of your feet because you swallowed a pip.
Oh, wow.
Ridiculous. Other ones as well, where military have been involved, where military personnel have turned up every day at a person's house and taken a great interest in them. But it's all with the blessing of the parents. The parents say, well, yeah, they did come. They did call those guys and spend time with you as a child. But no one seems to know what it was all about. And that's the strangeness about it all. And these are people who...
If I can bring in some material from Voyagers,
sure.
They relate that, even to abductions. A lot of the abductions don't actually happen, but they're like, I don't know. It's like it's an alternate thing. Like the fear people feel, it can be implanted as well. So, but you can't just. I mean, you can't. If they want to transform, let's say there is a medical procedure that's real, but so they can't change it into like going to the circus or something. They have to change it into something that is emotionally related, so it becomes a medical procedure instead of like, visit on the ship, that kind of thing, but also the Voyager says a lot of these accounts are not real. So anyway, and the other thing I want to say, Ian, is about the speeding up of time. There are certain experiencers who are connected with positive, even the Greys, positive Greys. So they will tell them, and there are accounts I remember, like especially the Sherry Wild account, and these are positive Greys. So they will say, well, we got you there. We can alter it to a certain extent. We can speed up time so you'll get there, because if you have to get there, kind of thing. But certain things we can do and certain things we can do. There was like, the Betty Andreasen, she lost her brothers in a car crash, I believe. And they said, well, we see that happening, but we can't change it. It's our karma, is like, you can't, certain things you can do and certain things they can't do. So I'm just saying there are accounts where they explain that might be useful to you,
Yeah,
I can look them up if you need, but I mean, these are from the ETs themselves saying how it works,
Yeah, and Brian, what do you think? Do you think that ETs are perhaps renting out units on industrial estates and holding interviews with would-be abductees?
Yeah, I've read about Hoppin's accounts. I read about Hoppin's accounts of that, and so one woman, I think, was even driven somewhere by someone who's probably a hybrid of some kind. So, I think these buildings just appear. They have their interview, and then the building disappears, so it was never there. Or sometimes we go back to a restaurant. We were in that restaurant. You go back, it's just an empty lot. There's never a restaurant there.
I actually remember part of that book. I think that particular incident, when it looked like a building or a house somewhere in the boonies, but either under regression or somehow she came to know that it was actually a landed craft. It was a screen memory.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I've
oh.
read that. I've read that as well. I actually took 2 witnesses to a UFO event back to the forest where they witnessed the event. And actually, on the day that I drove them there, we were thwarted at every turn. There were roadblocks, diversions, and there were low-flying military helicopters as well. It was near a military base, a secret military base that's got a long history, and other people, they won't talk about what goes on there as such. But when we tried to approach the forest and get to where they saw the event, they said, the house isn't there anymore, Ian. And we saw this house, but we've walked in this forest before with our dogs and we haven't seen that house before, but we did see the house. Now they saw a huge craft and they both watched it, and the dog was frightened, and the owner was saying no, and he had a military history, and he had a very strange history with, which actually included teleportation of the commanding officer that he used to be detailed to look after. His commanding officer actually dematerialized in the UK and apparently rematerialized in the US. Of course, I've got no way of corroborating his story, but this is what he's told me. His own daughter was out. I don't know whether I think she had a ferret or something, and she was walking the ferret, or whatever you do, letting the ferret loose in the countryside. She had a UFO experience, woke up, the ferret was gone, and she had problems with her eyes. They took her to a hospital, and he said, you wouldn't believe the fascination that the doctors had with her eyes, because her pupils was, or at least one of them, was so dilated that the doctors kept calling in one after another to look at her. So she had missing time. So the whole family had this missing time thing. But his story was, while they were actually watching this huge UFO over the forest, a car drove up with an occupant in it who telepathically talked to the guy and said, and him and his wife, and told him it's a weather balloon. And he said, what are you talking about? It's not a weather balloon. I'm seeing a UFO. And he had this telepathic memory being sent to him. It's a weather balloon. And I said, well, what was this guy like? He said he struggled to describe him. He said he was in some sort of like a what we would say futuristic kind of clothing. And he said, but his hair wasn't right, Ian. I said, well, how was it? He said, it's not how you or I would have our hair, Ian. And he wasn't really dressed like you or I would be. So, and again, the car, they said, this was before even electric cars became a thing. He said that we didn't hear it arrive. It was just there, suddenly there. The car was there. So again, we've got an alien interference with the witness while they're watching a UFO, telepathically telling them that the UFO they're seeing is a weather balloon outside a huge building, which is no longer there when we revisit the site. That's an incredible story. There's a lot to unpack there, but again, this is all corroboration with what other people are saying about these restaurants which aren't there, and buildings that aren't there after the interview.
Ian, I've got to ask you, you've got to carry around a video camera with you all these places. Are you videoing all these experiences? You carry a camera? So like for $300, you can get a really decent Zoom video camera. It doesn't cost much of anything.
But the trouble was, I looked video equipment all over Mexico and I didn't get anything. Well, in fact, I did get a few things, a few strange things. Recently, I've had a few people that I've spoken to, and they've said, Ian, my pictures were disappearing off my camera while I was looking at it. Or they said they actually had physical pictures and the actual images were changing. You know, this is what happens. The evidence is being deleted, and it can be deleted by them with their technology. I had a video camera with me, and I noticed people were looking up and pointing at the sky in the rural area of Normandy. And I looked up and I could see a silver ball, and I was able to film that for a while. So that was very strange. But of course, I didn't speak good enough French to talk with the people to see what they were seeing, and we were in a moving vehicle. But at least I saw them looking up, got my video camera with me, pointed that up, and did get a bit of footage.
I was investigating crop circles in the UK, around Wiltshire, and I did see one of those balls above a crop circle, and it was like, but I was guided to actually see it because I was explaining something to somebody there, and it made me like go like that, and then I saw it. So it was like I was supposed to see it. This crop circle, I took a picture. I'd never done before, but I took a picture of the field, like, you know, before it happened. I was guided to do that, and then 4 days later, the crop circle was there where I had taken the picture without the crop circle. So, you know, all kinds of things like that. So the crop circles are, you know, they facilitate all that happening too.
I've seen the crop circles too, and I've also seen the balls of light flying around, intertwining with each other above the fields where the crop circles appear. Yes.
So do they make it? Is that how they're made, by these orbs?
Well, we have seen videos. There's a famous video of what we call Oliver's Castle, where a crop formation is laid down. But do you remember crystals?
That's a fake. That's a fake. You know.
I know. Yeah, I was going to say, people will say that was a fake. Of course, there's lots of people who will say that is real, and of course, it was all made to look like a fake. I don't know, but all I can tell you is that
maybe it was real. Maybe it was real. They described like with the alien autopsy. I just laughed at that, the Ray Santilli film. But now Linda Moulton Howe and others say it's actually real. You can see on YouTube the alien autopsy film from 1947. It's real. Holy smokes!
In fact, Brian, you should talk with Colin Wolford. He's a great guy, a researcher who studied that, and he's actually got his own Facebook page on the alien autopsy.
Really?
I'll give you his details if you want to, but he speaks at the Laughlin conference, and he's quite well known now in the field. And he actually spoke with he speaks with Santilli, he speaks with Linda and I and Grant Cameron. So you know, he's a great guy. He's actually just texted me the last couple of days.
Well, great. So, let's get him on the show. I think he could join us.
I think you'll have a great perspective, a much better perspective of the alien autopsy film after speaking with him. He's done so much research. In fact, I don't know anyone else who's done as much research on the alien autopsy aspect than him.
Nobody's ever taken a video of a crop circle forming. There've been witnesses of it forming, but nobody's ever been able to capture it. So why would they allow, you know, just one video to come out? This is not, they're suppressing all of this, you know.
Well, Crystal saw crop formation type formations appear outside of her window, done by balls of light. So yeah, that's what she related, and that's important, because I don't think she had any prior knowledge before these things happened of those events happening in England.
Okay, now we're wrapping up after 4.5 hours. It's been a good talk with everyone. My Richard Dolan talk was less than an hour, but I was counting on the questions and discussion to be very dynamic. I think this is kind of a high-level conversation. I call it a 8 out of 10. So I want to thank everyone for coming, all the comments, and like and subscribe to the Vancouver UFO channel, and we'll have more Vancouver UFO meetups to come. And if anybody wants to get involved out there, like with editing videos or arranging guests for the Vancouver UFO Meetup group, contact me or Mimi, and we can make that happen. Okay, thanks, folks. Thanks for listening. See you next time.